Hi, folks. Welcome to this week's episode of Voices of Resilience. My name is Eric Mucky. I'm the Executive Director of Lost&Found, a Sioux Falls, South Dakota-based 501c3 that facilitates comprehensive suicide prevention strategies for young adults. And you are joining us for Voices of Resilience, the place where we talk about the ways in which resilience shows up in our community, for ourselves, for others, and in the greater community. I'm very happy to have you here this week. And as we've been talking about this month, our focus has really been on wellness and trying to expand what our definition of wellness is. When you think of wellness, you're probably like me in thinking that wellness really is talking about physical wellness and physical health. Really what we're getting at with wellness is thinking of this as a broader term or something that impacts us in ways that go beyond just our physical health. And so this week and this month, I should say, we've been really focusing on the ways in which we can find mental wellness, emotional wellness, behavioral wellness, spiritual wellness, and using that for ways and in ways that will help us grow as individuals and find resilience and ultimately protect us from or give us protective factors against potential outcomes of mental health conditions, but also suicide. And what I'm excited about this week is we're bringing in a friend, a guest, Travis Jacobs, who will kind of talk to us about the healing that you can find in the written word. And I know that not all of us consider ourselves writers. Come together and think about sort of the ways in which we can grow and change. And so before we get started today, I do want to obviously highlight our sponsors, the folks that make this show possible each week. First and foremost, the Astrup Family Foundation, based in Rochester, Minnesota. The Astrup family gives to organizations that are focused on faith, family, community, and healthcare. Astrup Family Foundation has been a partner to Lost&Found for the past couple of years. If you want to learn more about the Astrup Family Foundation, simply go to astrupfamilyfoundation.org. And our other sponsor for today, our other prime sponsor, American Bank and Trust, based in Sioux Falls, have been fortunate and blessed to have worked with American Bank and Trust for the past 3 years as a funder. They are a wide funder of community activities throughout Eastern South Dakota, based in Huron, South Dakota, with offices in Sioux Falls. If you want to learn more about American Bank and Trust and our partners there, simply go to abt.bank and check them out. So let's dive in today. So today we're bringing in a fantastic guest, somebody that I've really enjoyed spending time with on a different podcast with NAMI South Dakota, and somebody who I think you'll find really engaging. So I'm going to introduce you today to Travis Jacobs. Travis is the author of 4 books and 2 spoken word albums. So you're probably getting a thing today. You're going to be talking a lot about the spoken word and the written word. Along with his sister Tessa, he co-founded TnT Healing, a nonprofit that offers unique writing experiences, helping humans find healing, expression, connection, and transformation through the art of putting pen to paper, which is what we'll focus on today. In the spaces we don't find all the answers we were hoping for, we learn how to find connection. So TnT Healing teaches classes to specifically veterans, at-risk kids, folks who are in prison, and really, honestly, any human at any different point in life. So excited to bring along Trav onto the live cast here today, and I'll bring him on the screen here. Hey, Travis.
Hey, thanks for having me, Eric. Appreciate it.
Glad to have you here, and looking forward to what will be a pretty entertaining conversation, I hope. So we always kind of start off with something similar here. We talk about people wearing a lot of hats. People are bringing a lot of identities to the cast. What are some of the hats that you wear?
Teacher, writer, dad, frisbee thrower for my dog. He would say that. And I'm just a seeker of good stories. I love to watch good stories, read good stories, hear good stories, but also a seeker of healing, the tips and tricks and tools to heal the human experience, but then also find things that make life enjoyable for people. So I would say those are the hats I wear.
Great hats to wear, without a doubt. Tell me a little bit. So you're talking about finding stories and loving stories. So you've written 4 books, and you've had a couple spoken word albums, and now you teach writing to others as part of your daily life. So how did you come to be a writer?
Yeah, my dad was a writer, so he would bring me and my brother and my sister along to some different writing things. And so from a young age, I knew that I loved storytelling. And I loved the technology and the psychology behind the art of telling a cool story. and I fell in love with it. We would go like screenwriting stuff or advertising writing classes. So I knew that I wanted to have that as part of my life. And then when I came to a crossroads in my life where I was dealing with some addiction and some depression and anxiety, when I started seeking out the healing for that, when I went through treatment, there was a ton of writing. And when I went through these programs for the anxiety and depression, there were all these writing exercises. And I was like, the psychology and technology of both were so similar. I thought it'd be cool to put them both in the same classes and then share them with other humans that were seeking out the same thing.
I'm excited to learn more about what that looks like here today, and I know the folks tuning in are excited about that as well. I'm curious in sort of the journey you're talking about. So you're talking about how writing has really help you navigate your life.
Mm-hmm.
What role has writing played in your life and sort of shaping that journey?
Well, I think you said it in the intro. You said that not everybody identifies as a writer, which is true. Sometimes people will show up and they're like, "I'm not a writer," but I always like to point out the fact that in your mind, you've been writing a story since you were born, and the second you wake up in the morning, you have all these storylines. So you're actively telling the story and listening to the story at the same time. And if you would actually which is a great practice, is put those stories down on paper, which was what was taught to me by a guy by the name of Gary Van Warnberdam. He would tell me to track my thoughts and take a look at how I responded to myself and to life all week long. And he said it's where the hunted becomes the hunter. And it's very interesting to see what I say to myself in here throughout my day. And it has a lot to do with which ones I believe and buy into, how I feel in here, how I feel emotionally by what stories I believe. So once I started tracking those thoughts and then trying to rewrite some of them, it really changed how I felt about a lot of areas of life.
I really want to dig into more of the sort of rewriting the narrative. I'm curious. So you mentioned talking about healing, and I really want to dive into sort of that rewriting. So we're talking today about sort of finding healing through the written word. So you use writing as a path to healing in your work. How does writing help people heal?
So one of the things I always like to say with healing, because healing, which I love, it's talked about a lot more right now, but it's almost become one of those words where, a lot of people promise this all encompassing healing. Like if you do this, you'll find healing. But I say up front is that you can find some healing, but our organization might be better called TnT Helping. Like we help people take a look at through writing what they can actually maybe find some healing for. So I have this saying in the classes that life and writing both take three things: awareness, practice, and courage. So we practice a lot of writing awareness about your life to figure out what can actually be changed and what can't be changed. And the things that we can't change, how can we express them and connect to other people? Because sometimes that's the only thing that we can do is figure out how to carry what we have in the areas that we can't find healing. So when we find the healing, it'll lighten the load a little bit. And then we have to be honest about some of those things that might be with us for the journey. One of the last text messages my sister sent to me, I have it saved and printed out, and it sits on my bed stand. It says, "Expression helps heal depression." Taking it out of here and putting it on paper and taking a look at it. And that's one of the things that I love about paper is it's always available. And you can be 100% honest on paper. Like you can get it all on paper.
I know for myself, in particular, it's always been sort of a place of healing, or a place to actually, if I need to get everything out, that's where it's going. I do want to kind of dig in a little bit here to think. So, is there something different? And I want to ask more about the story of TnT Healing, and I love the TnT Helping side of this. This is going to be a fun conversation about that. Is there something different that you see when it comes to sort of telling a story in written form as opposed to, say, telling a story to a friend?
Yeah, because even though we would like to say we don't care what other people think and we're all 100% honest, we all struggle with it. Everybody does. And putting it on paper, it's, you even have to practice putting it on paper 100% honest, because you're worried that somebody will find it. There's no editing yourself. You can really see who you are as a human when you start writing your thoughts and your feelings and your experiences down on paper. In a friendship, I'll probably express everything that I think is always safe. We might have one person that we can tell everything to, but I heard a guy say once that the secrets that I can't afford live in here. So I have to figure out how to get them out of here. So paper can be a start to that. You can start putting it on paper. In the beginning, there was some stuff I didn't feel like I could say it. So I would put it on paper and then give it, like, hey, this is, give it to my counselor. When I first started seeing a counselor, like, I just couldn't put words to everything because it would, you get emotionally flooded sometimes with some of that stuff if you haven't had practice expressing yourself fully like that.
I love that. That's very powerful, Travis. And I know one thing that I really want to dig into, because you mentioned your sister and you talk about how this transition sort of led you into TnT Healing. So TnT Healing was a dream that you had shared with your sister Tessa, who died in 2018. Tell us about her. What was that experience like to know Tessa, but also to found this with you or have that idea with her?
Yeah, we had similar stories. We were always very close, and we had similar journeys where we both encountered some addiction and then got clean and sober, and then had the other stuff to deal with after you get clean and sober, all the other fun things to work through. And in that process, we found it was difficult because life is still going on. You're trying to do these programs and these things, and life still has to carry on. You still got to do all your other responsibilities, and it was expensive. It was very expensive to stay alive and heal. So we were like, what if we would try a bunch of stuff that people claimed heal you or help you, and then we would, we'd share ideas like, hey, you should try this. Go to singing bowls, or don't go to this thing over here. It's really whack and it doesn't help at all. And it's just, but we just really felt that there weren't enough opportunities for people to have the tools that we were trying to find and hunt out, especially people who are in certain positions. Like, how does somebody who's experiencing 100% homelessness find all these tools to get a chance to get on the other side of that net? Or how does somebody who's experiencing incarceration for years and zero programs, how do we expect them to adjust and adapt and then become so we felt like if we could find a way to collect enough of the stuff and just say, this is what works for us, if you would like to see it and try it, we just felt it would be helpful to have a place for all this stuff. And then my mode of expression and connection has always been through writing, so I thought putting it into this class and then helping people find those things for themselves would be the way to do it. We didn't have a name for it in the beginning. We just would always talk about it. My sister Tessa was always into helping people and always encouraging people to help people. Like, she had this thing that she would do on birthdays where she would give you the dollar amount of your birthday. So on my 40th birthday, the last birthday I had with her, she said, here's $40 to do something nice for yourself, and here's $40 to do something nice for somebody you don't know. Like, that was how she lived her life. Was always, we had, when we lost her, we had tons of people say, hey, your sister was doing this, your daughter was doing this, and we had no idea. But she was always figuring out ways to help people. I would come home, and one Christmas there was cookies everywhere, like the whole kitchen and the table. And I was like, who are all? And she was like, the homeless shelter, they need Christmas cookies too, So the last thing that she was working on, she had a goal of using foods and fluids to heal yourself. Like, how could you use, she'd experienced some mold in a place where she lived. She got really sick, and she found this guy who said, hey, if you try this juice thing, I promise it'll work. And it worked. So that's what she was pursuing. And we would always try to break down goals and be aware of what we were focusing on, how much energy we had to focus on. So mind, body, spirit. Her physical movement goal for that month, May 2018, was to walk a 5K a day. And she was out doing her 5K walk, and she was hit and killed. And yeah, that was the worst day of my life, easily the worst day of my life. And
I'm sorry for your loss. And I know the thing that I'm always fascinated about it. I was gonna say, it was like to be older in this case apparently was an incentive from her perspective, get paid to get older. But I'm always interested to think through like that heart and that spirit of service. I have to imagine that's part of what drove you to continue with the work and continuing to build on that dream. And I wanted to ask, how did you come to decide in the pain and the moment that you were experiencing that loss to go forward with creating TnT Healing?
Well, I did need to, I would just like I said too, I did need to take breaks. Like, I knew that sometime I knew that someday I would find a way to do it, but I also wasn't prepared for how much it was going to affect me physically. And just I just wasn't prepared for how much it was going to damage me and how long. For a year, I kept trying to do it, but I just couldn't find the energy to do it. I couldn't find the emotional strength or physical strength to do it. So I knew it was always going to, like, this is one of those stories I was talking about that I can't rewrite. This is going to suck the rest of my life. This is going to be a tragic chapter that I don't get to rewrite. I can decide what's more tragic is not pursuing what we had talked about doing and doing that in honor of her and telling her story, or just giving up and not doing it. You know, there's always this, you got to kind of weigh those, what's more tragic. And I felt that was always the plan, was to help as many people as possible. So I don't think like some of the plans that they don't always all have to change. And I feel like that was the best way to carry on and honor her memory. And every time I teach a class, you know, I talk about her and why we do what we do. And yeah, that's why.
It's powerful, Travis. I know. I want to touch on that comment you made, you know, talking about sort of rewriting and thinking of stories, you know, in this process, you obviously can't rewrite that story. How does this help you? And I know being able to share her story, how does that help you as you're kind of getting grounded and moving forward with your classes?
I would say there's this book called, the movie just came out a couple years ago, Just Mercy. The book is called Just Mercy. The movie's called Just Mercy. And he talks about in that he's an attorney who goes and helps people that need representation. And he says something to the effect in the book that the only thing sometimes you can find is connection to other people who are aware of what you're aware of. And, you know, that's what I feel like when I share this, I can connect with other people who understand it, you know, and then we're not alone in it. You know what I mean? Like, it sucks. It still sucks being together in it, but it sucks less. It does suck less. You know, I was texting with a friend of mine last night, and she had lost her daughter, and it was her daughter's birthday yesterday, and we're texting back and forth. It sucks less having somebody there, but it still hurts, and it's still not the same. But having other humans there, and then not keeping it in here, you know, getting it out. It's like that pressure valve. Like, you have so much stuff building up in here. It's a way to get it out. I mean, in the beginning, it'll be 3 years this May. And in the beginning, I couldn't even, I couldn't say her name without breaking down. I couldn't say how it happened. I couldn't say who was responsible. I couldn't do any of that stuff just because it was too much. But I knew that I had to keep saying it. Like, I had to find a way to keep, that's where the last book I wrote came from, is every morning I woke up and I wrote about it. Like, I wrote about it because I knew eventually I needed to talk about it to other people. Like, I have to, like, that's just what I was taught in recovery. And I think it works in every area of your life, is finding your people.
Write your way back, so to speak.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah, that's good.
I like that, Travis. I know for the folks that are tuning in, I do want to give a quick shout out here and give you a link. So we're going to talk a little bit more about Travis's work with TnT Healing, but I encourage you, as you're going through this, check them out, tnthealing.com. You can learn more about the work that Travis is doing in memory of his sister Tessa, and kind of how this healing process works in terms of sort of sharing the story and almost rewriting, so to speak, writing your way back, so to speak. So Travis, I know I shared a little bit about TnT Healing just to kind of get sort of the high level version of it. Can you tell us from your own words sort of what you do and sort of how you go about this in the Sioux Falls community and beyond?
Yeah. We partner with other organizations who are also in the business of helping humans. We found that that's the best way to connect with people. And so different veterans organizations, or how we met through NAMI, South Dakota, like partnering with them. Lawrence Diggs was a really cool guy that I met. He has some programs in the prison. We would go in with him into the prison to do some writing. People from all walks of life. You know, we teach classes to people who are 100% experiencing homelessness, to people who are professional writers. Anybody who wants to improve their writing or living, we teach classes on both.
I love it. Tell me, Travis. So when you're thinking of sort of the path of teaching and kind of how this plays out with your day to day, what are some of the biggest messages or thoughts that you share with the folks that you're working with? And it can be any sort of theme, anything specific that you really focus on, but love to hear more about sort of what are the messages that you're really trying to get across in some of these sessions?
A lot of it is with that we need to laugh more and that we need to play more. Like, that's the more stress you have, and it sounds silly because that's usually the first thing that goes. But this whole world could use a lot more play and interaction. So a lot of the writing exercise we do is basically like an hour and a half recess, depending on. So if people are in a really hard spot, that's what we do. We laugh a lot, we write a lot, we connect a lot. and we need a lot more of that. And that's what we need when life gets heavier too, is we need to have those things. So I do a lot of stuff with helping people be aware of that. Again, the awareness thing, like, do you have it on your calendar? You can schedule laughter just like you schedule anything. You can schedule laughter, you can schedule play. Most of us, by the time we're out of high school, we have, like, all play has been taken away. There is no more recess. There is no more time for that. Everything's serious. Or we do stuff with play that makes it no longer play. So we think that we're having fun, but we add pressure to all of our play. So all of our play is either monetized or it's competition. So it's not fun. So we're never relaxing. So we talk a lot about those types of things, about taking a look at the storylines in our mind and taking a look at how we talk to ourselves. And we do a lot of that type of stuff. And then where do you want that story to go? Like, if you were, those kids' mazes that they have on the restaurant menu where you get to the end, we usually have people start at the end and work their way back to the beginning, because you can see where you're going then. So just being the person in control of that pen in your mind, writing that story, and practicing writing better stories and practicing living better stories, and finding out the rhythm. I know you sent me something about asking me about rhythm, like why I like to use the word rhythm so much. And I feel like there's a rhythm to everything. And everybody's rhythm is a little bit different. Something that might work for you might only partially work for me. So I need to find out my rhythm in everything. And when life feels off, my rhythm's off. So I just need to adjust something a little bit.
Well, first and foremost, I have to say, give me some of that recess, my friend. Could use some more of that these days.
Recess? Yeah, I hear you. We all could. Right? Like, everybody could use a recess, and it's super. You could take. One of the things that I do in the class is I have everybody write down 5 things or people they find funny. It could be comedians, it could be movies or whatever. And you can have that on your schedule. And you can watch 5 minutes of a comedian every day, or every, once a week you do something, and have those things in there. And it really changes life in a big way when you have that stuff in there.
Got to have some play. I do want to dig in. You talked a little bit about rhythm, and I'm glad you brought that up. I'm curious from your perspective, what does, when we think about finding rhythm in our lives and finding that in our writing, and you really emphasize that. I know one thing I'm curious about from your perspective is, what does rhythm look like for you? Like, what does that mean for you personally?
For my lifestyle, for what I do, I would say trying to find the balance of everything, trying to find the balance in play, in work, and keeping those things in check, like making sure I have to have a calendar. Otherwise, all the stuff that I'm supposed to do, I stop doing it, and then life is off. So yeah, I have to have a balance of everything. I have to have a balance of conversations with people, and also, this is another awareness thing, is having conversations with people that I really enjoy talking to, because a lot of us have conversations with a lot of people we don't enjoy. And that's more stress, that's more stress. So just being aware of those types of things. I need to have a certain amount of writing in my life. And there's different kinds of writing. There's writing I do for teaching. There's writing I do for books. And then there's a kind of writing that I do that's just mine. Like, I keep a part of my writing that will always be just for me. And that's kind of like this thing that I have with my art. I think anybody that has an art should have that component. I've worked with some songwriters and other writers who get stuck, and a lot of times they don't have anything that's just theirs. So you have this creative part of you that is always forced to perform. So that having that piece stuff that's just yours. Same thing with play. Like, you can play with another human and find activities that are fun. Writer, her name is Julia Cameron. She has a book called The Artist's Way. And she talks about having this artist date that's only for you. And those things help me feel like I'm in rhythm. If I don't do those things, like I mentioned earlier, I'm a Frisbee thrower for my dog. Even that's good for me. And it's good for him too.
But he probably needs a little bit of running. Just to get yourself out of the house. Yeah. And I'm curious too, like when you talk about that balance between performance and play, because I know I feel that. I'm sure that there are plenty of folks who are either tuning in or just even out in the ether who feel the same way, of like, you're always trying to find that balance of, this is what I'm passionate about, this is what I love, but I need a space to be able to have it for myself and also be able to perform. You talk about having your own space to write. How does that show up in the ways that you're actually presenting and in front of a group? How do you manage that balance?
I usually have it on my calendar. Like, I have certain days that are for certain things. Like, I do also write commercials. So I have advertising writing days. One of the awareness practices that I teach is like, what is your rhythm for the week? Like, what are your days that you're the most functional? What time of day are you at your best? And then also becoming aware of your year. So where are you most effective? Like, so a lot of people get tired in the winter, and I do too, because of the place that we live, but it's also when I write the most is in the winter. So I'm aware that that's my book writing is in the winter season. My editing of the books is in the summer season. So I've become aware of where to put the stuff, and then every place gets its slot, and that works for me. It might not work for other people, but I find that way it doesn't, because I can get caught up into the performance too much, because we will all want to perform for people. We all want human approval, and it feels like good energy, but then that's when we start getting angry and burnt out. It's too much performance and not enough play.
I appreciate that balance. I know that will be something I'll take away from this, especially just thinking of sort of that balance of throughout the year. What are you most proficient at or productive at, depending on the season? Thinking of that sort of season and thinking about how that translates back to the work that you do with TnT Healing. I know for the folks who are listening, they're probably curious, what are some of the experiences that you've found being in this space, teaching writing to others who need it, and we can kind of dig into that from there to kind of say, what are some lessons that you've gained from that. But I wanted to start first with sort of in that experience, what are some of the best experiences you've had helping others heal through writing?
Probably would be people regaining awareness to stuff that they had put down or put away. There's a lot of stuff that I do in the class where it's writing exercises to find out what you stop doing. A lot of people stop doing stuff and they don't know why they ever stopped it. And it could be stuff that like I had an older gentleman in one class, and we were talking about movement that you enjoy, movement that you like doing, movement that you would like to try, or movement that you stopped doing that you used to like. And he was like, I've done Kung Fu my whole life, and I don't know why I stopped. I stopped like 20 years ago. And so I was like, that awareness to like, why did I stop doing something that I loved? Or getting permission. Like, people don't need my permission, but showing people that they can give themselves permission to do stuff that they might not have. A lot of people feel like they can't do certain things for certain storylines in their mind. But when that light bulb goes on, it's like, why can I not do this? Why can I not buy a pair of rollerblades and try to see if I like rollerblading? Because life is serious. Because why? So when those things go on, and then also some people are in the class and they're like, I used to write and then I stopped for some reason, and then they pick it back up. There's a really talented writer. I met him in the prison. He's in Sioux Falls. He has a book. It'll be coming out the end of April or first week of May. His name's Kevin Brown. The book is called From Whips and Chains to Whips and Chains. And he's this incredible writer. And we met in prison doing this poetry. We were all sharing our poetry, and then we were writing. And then he really wanted to put this book out. And so he's got a book that's going to be coming out. And then just seeing somebody take something like that, just this hanging out time, sharing poetry, and turn it into an entire book, and then see the completion, and then knowing what that will do for him as a human, but then how that book will impact other people, because he's got this amazing perspective. He's a great storyteller. And to bear witness to that, that's beautiful. And I would say the other one would be just seeing how people show up in life differently and still choose to do stuff for themselves. So I had a guy who he was in between homelessness, and he came to a class and showed me that the day before he had to pull out his own tooth because he didn't have dental insurance or a dentist, but he still came to writing class the next day because he wanted to write. And so then I had another class coming up where I would teach people who probably have dental insurance and probably don't want to go to the dentist, but this guy can't. So for whatever reason, he pulls his own tooth. And just becoming aware of where people are at in different areas of life, where that, I do have some difficulties. I don't have that one. I'm not doing that. I'm not pulling my own teeth. And that doesn't lessen the pain that I have, but it helps me have empathy for other people, to listen to those kinds of stories and be like, there are people out there walking out there who don't have the gift of dental insurance or food, and dang it, they show up to do their art. You know what I mean? Like that. There's something about that you just don't unsee that or unhear that. You just don't.
The amount of profound I can put into words that's incredible, Travis. And I am curious in that process, you literally are mentoring writers. And the question that came to mind for me is, are you mentoring other folks who are writing publications or books or anything to that degree in this same process?
Yeah. Yep. If people want to go down that road, I've self-published three of my books are self-published, and so that's the cool thing about the way the industry is set up right now is people can do that. It's the same thing with albums, like there's spoken word albums, but you can do all that on your own now. There's less gatekeepers these days, so you also have to be your own hustler and your own promoter and your own tech person and your own editor. But man, it's free range for art right now. So if you have a book in you or an album in you and you've got the energy, now's the time. And that's another big part about awareness is maybe you didn't have the energy at a certain season because you were dealing with depression or anxiety or loss. That doesn't mean that your season's not coming. That doesn't mean that it's not coming up where this is going to be your window, and always hang on to that. And I met a lady who was also homeless, and she carried her book that she had written around, like she had it all in paper in her, in the bag, in her backpack, So, yeah, it's something that I would encourage everybody to do. And if people in the class, they want to know more about that, I absolutely share my experiences with that too.
Well, the range of impact, if you need a hype man, give me a call. Happy to.
Okay.
Well, and I do want to share here. We had a great comment here. Thank you, Kat, for sharing this. So, Kat said, "Thank you, TnT Healing. Do you ever combine writing with other wellness movement activities like kung fu, yoga, etc. in your classes?"
I haven't done yoga yet, but Kat, if you want to do yoga and writing sometime, I would love to collaborate. We do have one coming up. We've done other ones in the past where we do equine therapy with horses and riding and veterans. And we have one coming up at the end of April. We have one where we're partnering with a veterans organization and then in horsepower. And then also, I hope I get it right, it's Sioux Falls Chamber Music Collective is the organization. And they do all sorts of incredible, beautiful strings and cello and piano. And we've collaborated with them to put poetry to the music, and we're actually working on collaborating again. Hopefully this summer we'll have it ready where we're going to put poetry to music. So we're open to combining anything that works. I'll do kung fu too. If somebody got a kung fu teacher, I'll partner with that for sure.
So you're going to find that person in Sioux Falls. I do want to ask before we transition questions here, Travis, what's the best way for folks to partner with you, or sort of what does partnership look like with TnT Healing?
Sure. It depends on what their organization is and what they're doing, but we're willing to talk with any group. They can go to the website, tnthealing.com, or we also have a Facebook page that's just TnT Healing. They can either message me on either one.
Sweet. I will share that. We'll share that in the comments here, folks. But just here on the screen, if you want to check out TnT Healing and find ways to partner with Travis, go to tnthealing.com, and we can. I'm sure there's got to be somebody in Sioux Falls willing to do kung fu and writing. That just.
I wish I haven't found kung fu in Sioux Falls, but if there is a kung fu teacher, please. But yeah, we're willing to partner with people that do all sorts of different stuff. I think it would be cool to someday do. Kind of like there's a job fair, do like a healing arts fair and have all these different people together. Maybe we could collaborate and put them all in the same room. But I wish, and that's why I appreciate you having us on here. I really think that it would be very beneficial for all organizations to collaborate more. That's why we set it up the way that we set it up, where we don't have a location, we go to locations. I think partnering and helping each other and learning from each other, that's definitely the best move for everybody.
That's where the magic happens. I wanted to ask here, so kind of transition a little bit and get some rapid fire questions, and then we'll transition to the last section of the show. So some rapid fire for you just to change it up. So keep writing. The amount of information and insight from this talking about writing is fantastic. And I had to ask how to flip the script on you. What are you reading right now?
I always am reading Bukowski. I don't know if you ever read Charles Bukowski, but he's a poet.
I haven't myself, no.
He's the most honest person I've ever read, and that's why. And he's not for everybody. Some people don't like him, but I'll say that there was no holding back with that guy. Like, he writes about everything, and I find that encouraging. I feel like there's sometimes I'll take people who are writers that I enjoy, and I'll put them next to my laptop because I feel like they've expressed themselves fully, and I feel like they're cheering me on. Like, so I read Bukowski a lot, and Stephen Pressfield is another guy I read a lot. He talks a lot about the resistance in art, and I find a lot of good stuff from both of them. Yeah.
To share them out here with the group and make sure that folks are tuning in. So you got some fantastic talents beyond writing and speaking. What is a hidden talent that most people wouldn't know about you?
Hidden talent, and no, I won't do it for you because I'm not quite ready yet. Is singing. So I've been during quarantine, I've been taking singing lessons, and by the end of 2021, you can hear some singing from me, but not quite yet. So,
okay. Well, we'll add you if you can get yourself on Spotify. We'll add you to the Spotify playlist. What are you singing?
What am I singing these days? We were working on my assignment was Johnny Cash Hurt, and then what is it? Take Me to Church is the other one. That's what we're practicing this week. So.
I like it. Well, looking forward to hearing the pipes at some point here soon. And I know it's not your day job, but I have to ask you. So, and the journey that you were part of and that you've been down in your life, what was the first job that you had?
I was a dishwasher at a steakhouse. I was a dishwasher at a steakhouse. I don't think we were legally supposed to be working there, but we did. And but a dishwasher at a steakhouse.
I love it. Good, honest work. I feel like it's always telling me to say like, hey, like where did I get my start? And here's where I am today. Mm-hmm. What is a quality about you, sort of a characteristic trait, whatever it is, that people might get wrong about you?
Probably that sometimes people don't think that I'm always confident, that I'm not self-critical or self-conscious of my work, and I'm self-critical and self-conscious of all of my work. I don't think those voices ever go away. They're always there. I get nervous for this. I get nervous I'm like every human. Like I have things that I do to calm me down and make me relax because I don't want those things to get in the way of what I want to do. But I am self-critical and self-conscious about everything that I put out. And also that I still, we're obviously having a good time right now, that I still deal with anxiety and depression, that it comes less and it stays less often, but it's still there. I would say that.
Well, you and me both, my friend. It's even for the podcast host, for the person who's supposed to have it all together, even we get nervous too. Last rapid fire for you for the day. We've been asking this for everybody jumping on the show. What is one song we need to hear today?
Tribe Called Red is the group, and it's called Stadium Powwow featuring Black Bear. A lot of people like mellow meditation music. That's my meditation song. That song gets me right every day. That's the song.
I love it. We'll add that to the list. So for folks tuning in, we're capturing the song suggestions from every guest in 2021. At the end of the year, we'll unleash a podcast onto the world, or not a podcast, a playlist into the world. It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. I'm curious for myself, seeing sort of awesome. What is sort of the up and down that we go through.
Yeah, that's great.
So I know we've got about probably 5 minutes here, and I want to ask you a couple last questions here. So Lost&Found's programs are really focused on resilience. And when we think about resilience as an organization, we're talking about self, others, community, self, finding resilience for yourself and coping skills and things that will help you when no one else is around, the ways that we can support others who are maybe more vulnerable, but also thinking of our community. And I really appreciate the perspective you shared a little bit ago about collaboration and systems, and thinking about ways in which we can build a better system or set of systems for people in our community, state, country, so on. So from your own experience, when we're thinking about some of those ways we can build resilience, what are some ways you would recommend, or even just one way you'd recommend we try to build resilience in ourselves, others, or in our community?
That's good. I would say for an individual level, I would say spend more time listening to yourself, listen to your body, listen to your thoughts, and then offer that same to other humans. Offer that same. We need to listen more and give less advice, and we would learn more if we would listen more. Like when I go into places, I want to hear where people are at, and I want to hear what they're doing, so I can see how we can connect. Not so I can, I might be the teacher, but I'm also the student. You've heard that. I mean, I think a lot of listening more would help the community a bunch.
I like that. Just the idea of using your ears. You know, you have two ears, one mouth. How do you listen to yourself and other? I like that. And one more question for you before I sort of close the floor or kind of move on. So, what's one thing that you've learned in your life that you wish everybody else understood?
That all the stories in my mind, I might not have started writing them, but I do have the ability to rewrite them. That all the thoughts and all the stories in here might have been given to me by stuff that people said or did, or the experiences that I had. I might not have started them, but I can stop them and I can change them. Those are, the stuff that goes on in here plays such a big role in how I live out my life out here. And I wish more people were aware of um, that their beliefs, like what their beliefs, where they came from, if they're really yours, the thoughts, are they really yours? The life you're living, is that really yours? And then encourage people to find out who they really are and then express that. That would be.
I love that, Travis. I know for myself, it's something that I've definitely battled with throughout my life, and I appreciate you sort of closing on that perspective for us to really think about who we are and live into that. Before we go, anything else you want to share before we drop off for the day?
Did you want to do the thought thing or not?
Yeah, why don't, please share.
Okay.
Share
We were
that.
talking about this before we hopped on, and it's a lot of people who have active minds. Everybody's mind is pretty active. A lot of times, if you're going through something difficult or stressful, or even if you have like a physical ailment, your mind will constantly remind you of it, and it will start to wear you out and use up all your juice for the day. And some people teach that the mind is the enemy, and I like to talk about befriending the mind and just remind the mind. You can say something gentle to it, like "Thank you." Tell me something else. That's really beneficial for when you go to bed at night. If you're having these racing thoughts, or you're having these stressful things that constantly repeat in your mind, you can just say, "Thank you. Tell me something else." Like, it's just a gentle way to slow it, because I think a lot of people get caught up in the repetitive thoughts and they wear us out. They don't help us out. So that's just one way that I've found is very helpful for me to stop that mind from doing that over and over again.
Thanks for sharing that, Travis. I know for the folks who are tuning in, we had a good conversation about that just before we jumped on, and I think we can all sort of appreciate that, sort of, especially dealing with sort of the constant messages that probably came up for us during COVID-19 and all the things that came with it. Just sort of this being able to let go of stress by saying, again, to your point, thank you. Show me something else. So I appreciate you sharing that to close out. Anything else, Travis, before we close out today?
Play together more, have a lot more fun, laugh a lot more, and keep expressing yourselves the way that you truly are. That's the version that everybody really wants to hear. That's the version that we all do really want to hear. So I would just encourage you, and I really appreciate your time and the work that you do, Eric. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Hope we get a chance to play together here again soon.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks, Travis.
Thank you.
So, folks, thanks for joining us here this afternoon. And I know, as we always do each week, we try to close out with some updates from Lost and Found and some learnings. And I have to share. So I know Travis is still here with us, and thanks for Travis for joining. So thanks to you for joining us today and for listening in to Travis's thoughts, insights. I know I always come away with the conversation with Travis having learned more than I came in with. So I appreciate all of you jumping in with us today and listening in to Travis. If you want to learn more about Lost and Found and sort of why we talk about resilience and specifically the sort of idea of resilience, I encourage you to check out from the American Psychological Association, their definition of resilience and sort of the materials that come with it. This is the basis for everything that we do. And I encourage you to check it out. Go to apa.org/topics/resilience. It'll be shared here in the comments here after the show as well. If you want to learn more about Lost and Found, simply follow us online. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. I don't think we have the same handle on YouTube, but you can probably find us there too, at Resilient Today, or you can go to our website, resilienttoday.org, learn about our services, providing peer advocacy support, providing evaluation services, and also creating digital content for your community. So some updates from Lost and Found to kind of close out the day. We've been talking a little bit for a while about a golf tournament, and I encourage you to check it out on Friday, July 23rd. The Longley family in Sioux Falls is hosting a memorial golf tournament at Grand Falls Casino and Golf Resort. You can register for the tournament and learn more by going to bit.ly/Longley Long Ball Classic. We also have a fun announcement as well. So here in about a month's time, we've found a partnership with Severance Brewing in Sioux Falls. Will be part of their charity tap event on Saturday, May 1st. So encourage you to join us Saturday, May 1st at Severance Brewing in Sioux Falls, anytime 12 to 5 p.m. Central Time. More details coming. Lots of games, lots of prizes, and plenty of fellowship in support of Lost and Found and our resilience programs in South Dakota and Minnesota and beyond. Thanks for joining us, folks, today, and I appreciate the time that you shared with us, and I hope you'll join us next week for Ashley Lang. We rescheduled her from about a month ago. Excited to have her on the show. And as you kind of go about your week again, I echoed Travis's message, play more, find ways to experience life in ways that give you a chance to laugh and enjoy some much needed spring sunshine, especially if you're in the Northern Plains like us. So thanks for joining us today, folks, and we'll see you next week. We are compassionate.
We are inclusive.
We are responsive.
And we are here.